Hi, my name's Alex and I'd like to tell you about the ClearVision project. ClearVision is a charity. We run a postal lending library of children's books, which have all been specially adapted. So as well as the conventional print and pictures, they also include the text in braille or another touch language called Moon. So they're all books that are designed to be shared by people who have a vision impairment and people who are sighted and reading the print. We lend to roughly 1,000 families, schools, sensory support services, hospitals, hospices, children's homes, and public libraries all across the UK and Ireland. So I'll show you a little bit about our books. We start off with board books for the very youngest children, get them to reach out and explore. And these have all got something interesting to find on the page. So interesting textures, flaps to lift, sound buttons, things to pull and move around. They've also got the braille on there as well. So if a child's going to be a braille reader, and often, obviously, when they're this kind of age, that's not necessarily something that a decision has been made on, they can start to find the braille under their fingers and start to make an association between the words that are spoken aloud to them and what they can find on the page. So get them started. Moving on, we've got lots of preschool favourites, Kipper, Spot the Dog, Mog the Cat, the ubiquitous Peppa Pig, and these are in our interleaved format. These are what the majority of our books are like. They have the print, the pictures, and the braille on a clear plastic sheet. So the braille stays nice and crisp, and it works really well, and the braille's there for children to find as they're being read to at this kind of age, and to start to maybe trail a line, start to pick out letters when they first start reading. We do have lots of short, simple books with perhaps just a line of text on the page. So when a child first begins reading, it's not too intimidating. And we don't stop reading schemes as such, but we've got plenty of Oxford Reading Tree books we find very popular with schools for children to take home and do their practicing their reading with their families. We've got roughly 15,000 books in our collection, lots of fiction and non-fiction in the interleaved format for children to read throughout primary school, the very beginning of secondary in some cases. And these obviously give scope for a child to share their books with sighted peers working on project work, and to be supported by somebody who doesn't know braille in consolidating their reading. When they get a little bit more confident, they might borrow books like this, which are short chapter books that have been put in a slim single-sided braille copy and a print copy there together. So when a child's reading a bit more confidently, but perhaps still needs help with vocabulary or a little bit of encouragement, you can still have a print reader reading along there as well. We have some books for children at Key Stage 3 who are coming to braille either late or perhaps have a learning disability. So they can have something that's age appropriate, but which the vocabulary is relatively simple as they learn to read. We have a small collection of books which have been labelled in Moon. These are usually they're quite simple language, but those are available if you have a Moon reader. Our other special collection is for adults or older children. We lend lots of these to siblings who are reading with a younger child who is sighted. So they have the text, they have the braille, they have a bit of a picture description in braille as well, and a lot of them have little locator dots so you can point things out in the pictures as well. Our other special collection is our collection of tactile image books. These are, the majority of them are handmade. They are all books in which the illustrations have been specially designed to be explored by touch. So they're not simplifications of print illustrations, which a touch reader might find quite complicated, particularly at the beginning. The very simplest of them are like this. There are vacuum form, we've got some finger fun books, and these are basically a step up from a story sack. So they're just introducing a very realistic shape for children who are making that jump between a real object and the concept of illustration. We have plenty of skills books. So these are often used by children who perhaps are going to be braillists, perhaps not, but they need to build up their touch skills. And they're useful for talking about things like vocabulary, exploration of a page. So this one, it's a case of finding the different button, and that's something that gets the child sort of focusing on the page, making comparisons, remembering what they've touched, putting it all together. And once they've become more confident in their exploration of pictures, they might want to borrow something like this, which is one of our picture books. So there's a bit of a story, but there's also this is the story of the princess and the pizza. So it's a princess going around a junkyard and she's finding all kinds of interesting bits of scrap. So we've got a thrown away, flattened, but beautifully soft rabbit here, the strong contrast to the rough, scratchy wall behind. And the next thing, she finds some fluffy dandelions growing against some rubber car tires. So there's really interesting things to touch. There's lots to explore on the page. And these are often used by a really wide range of abilities. So children who perhaps are going to go on and decipher tactile maps and diagrams, this is a great starting point for them for building up their skills, but also by children who perhaps are never going to be readers in the conventional sense, but still get a lot out of exploring a picture while the story is being read aloud to them. The tactile books are loaned to schools and sensory support services. The interleaved books can be borrowed by families as well. For families, it's free to join. They get 6 books at a time. They're sent out using the Articles of the Blind free post, and they change 3 books at a time as often as they like using that service, so it's entirely free for them. For schools and services, it's £50 a year, heavily subsidised by our fundraising, and you can mix and match. So you get 20 units of loan, 20 units of books per loan. So a picture book like this is 1 unit. A short chapter book in the folder, or 2, and a tactile book is 4. So you can kind of mix and match depending on the needs of your individual pupils. If you'd like to know some more about the books, obviously this isn't the ideal medium in an ideal world. You'd be able to get your hands all over them and explore and kind of really grasp what they're about. So please do contact us if you've got any questions, or if perhaps you'd like us to send you some example books as a display loan to see if they're appropriate for your pupils. Our contact details will be available in the material attached, but as a starting point, our website is www.clearvisionproject.org. Thank you for listening.